Well, July has started, so I guess it's time for the quarterly stats. Got me cup of tea. Let's get into it. It's been a pretty amazing second quarter. We've got this new north facing array and it's really making a big difference, especially now the sun is like almost directly overhead. We're just getting oodles of power. We're exporting almost all of it because we've got the 15 pence export rate. But that is coming to an end at the end of this month, July. After that, my fixed period is up, and I've received notification from Octopus that they won't be doing a fixed term anymore. So it's going to stay at 15 pence a kilowatt hour initially, but they've said that it will be subject to change then. So for the moment, make hay while the sun shines and try and get as much of that energy. But if they change it and it gets lower than a certain amount, I'd have to try and figure out what that is. It might make sense to switch tack back to the way I was working before and try and use as much as I can rather than export it, but we'll see. But for the moment, I've been making just loads. So let's have a look at the numbers for the last quarter and you'll see what I mean. In the last quarter, we imported 4,693 kilowatt hours. And if you compare that to 2024, it was only 1,315 kilowatt hours. And again, that's because I've changed the way I'm working now. So now, instead of trying to use as much power as I can, that I generate myself, means that I don't have to import very much from the grid. Now I'm actively doing everything I can to use power from the grid during the cheap rate at night, including charging my house batteries. And then the daytime stuff that I generate is all being exported to the grid for 15 pence. And then I also dump out some of what I charged up the batteries with as well, so that they're empty by 11:30, so that I can then charge them up again. So that's why there's such a big difference between this quarter and the same quarter last year. So we've generated 5,160 kilowatt hours in the last quarter, so 5 megawatt hours. And if you compare that to 2024, the same quarter, we generated only 2,800. So you can see that's a significant increase, not quite double, but getting on that way. And that's all thanks to this new north facing array, which has just been working a treat. Can't believe I didn't do it sooner. We've exported 6,201 kilowatt hours. And again, if you compare that to the same period in 2024, when I was trying to use as much of my own energy as possible, you can see we only exported 244 kilowatt hours. So massive difference, massive difference. And the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that the exported value is greater than what we generated in the previous slide. So that's because I'm charging up the batteries from the grid at night, and I'm exporting some of that at tea time to help the grid. So that's why the exported figure is higher. So what does this all mean in terms of money? Well, let's have a look. So for the second quarter, we got paid a total of £930.21 for all the energy that we exported. We paid £322.64 for all the energy that we imported. The standing charge was about £40, and our FIT payment comes in at about £439 for that quarter. So when you add those up and take those away, what you're left with is that we made a profit of £1,007 for the quarter. So even if you took away the FIT payments, you know, because people today wouldn't be able to qualify for those if you've got solar on this scale, yeah, you didn't get the FIT scheme, you would still be looking at what, £550, something like that, £560 in gains from just selling this stuff back to the grid. So I mean, I'm just letting this build up in my Octopus account, because when we get to the winter, I'll have to start using the heating, and then I'm going to be paying for that. And so I'm hoping that there'll be enough built up in my Octopus account by the end of the year when we turn the heating back on to cover that whole winter period, and I'll end up with effectively a zero bill, or even maybe a little bit left over. But for the moment, I think I'm on course to do that without too much problem. I was originally had my monthly direct debit set at about £130 with Octopus to cover my usage through the whole year. But my balance was building up so quickly with all this excess money coming from the exports that I shrank it down to £100, and now I've shrunk it down to £50, and even that I think is probably going to be too much. So we'll see how we get on, but at the moment I'm only paying basically £50 a month to Octopus, and hopefully, like I say, there'll be enough money there in my account to cover the whole of the winter period. And so we'll have a look at the you know, when I do the yearly stats at the end of the year, and see how well we've done overall. So let's just have a quick look at each of the 3 months in general. So in April, we imported 1,504 kilowatt hours. That was £107. It was almost all from the night rate. We exported 1,923 kilowatt hours, so we made £288 from that. The standing charge was £13. So Octopus paid me in April £168. In May, we imported 1,565 kilowatt hours. That was £110 worth. Exported 2,107 kilowatt hours, so that's about £316 we made from that. You got the standing charge there at about £13.60. We did one of the I don't know if it was the power hours or saving sessions, one of those, I can't remember which one, but yeah, we got £1.96 back from that. So Octopus paid me in May £193. And then in June, we imported 1,476 kilowatt hours. That's £104 worth. We exported 2,172 kilowatt hours. So that's £325 that they paid us for that. When you subtract off the standing charge as well, £13.18, then Octopus paid us in June £207. So I would hope that the next quarter should be broadly similar to this quarter, as long as they don't scrap the 15p export rate between, well, if it lasts for August and September, then I'll get the same sort of 3-month period of having a 15p export rate. So we should get broadly similar amounts of money going into my Octopus account for the next quarter, but we'll see what happens. They might scrap the rate within weeks of my fixed period ending, so let's see on that score. Okay, let's take a look at the graphs like we always do, the pie charts. So here's the usual pie chart that shows all the power that we generated, where it came from, which inverter, which array. And obviously you can see now that the new north-facing array, the Solis, is almost as big as the Solax, which is the south-facing array. Not quite. as you'd expect, because the sun is still slightly to the south side, even though it's almost directly overhead. The south facing panels still generate a bit more than the north facing ones, and technically there are slightly more panels on the south facing side. I think it's 5.4 kilowatts connected to the inverter, whereas on the north side it's only 5 kilowatts. So it's not exactly even, but they're pretty close. And certainly the way the sun's coming up at the moment, it comes up sort of on the north side of the house. So as it rises, it actually hits the north panels for a while in the morning, and they generate more than the south panels. But after about sort of 10 o'clock, I think it's pretty much even split, and then it's more on the south side for the rest of the day. And because of the hill behind the house, when the sun starts to set in the evening, it does go technically back to the north side, but because it's gone behind the trees and the hill by then, you wouldn't notice any different. But I'll see if I can point it out on the actual best day graph, and you'll be able to see where the north panels actually fire up a lot sooner than the south panels. But yeah, so you can see we've got quite a good split there between the two north and south facing halves, and then the other arrays are all sort of generating very similar amounts. This is the pie chart that shows my energy mix, the total energy mix, in terms of what we paid for the various different electricity that we've used, and you can see it's almost entirely off peak from the grid, the big blue area, and then there's a small amount of grid cheap, which is basically it's in the peak. It's in the peak hours, but because Octopus were charging my car during that time, it counts as being at the off-peak price. So it's still 7 pence a kilowatt hour, but it just happens to fall within the peak rate time. So basically all of that blue and all of that red all represents 7 pence a kilowatt hour, and there's just a tiny little slither of yellow that's barely visible, which is the small amount of expensive we've used. There was a couple of spots where we drew a bit of power from the grid. I think I had a failure in some code changes I'd made to Monocle, and I didn't notice for about half a day, and that caused all sorts of haywire behavior to occur. So we ended up pulling some stuff from the grid, and I think you'll see that when you see the half-hourly breakdown slides. Yeah, you'll see that there's a whole chunk where we imported a load in the middle of the day. Here's the pie chart that shows where all the energy that we have consumed went, or at least a large proportion of it. So we've got most of it going in the Tesla as usual, and then the next biggest one is the hot water. We're not using the Leaf that much at the moment, mostly using the Tesla, so that's why the Leaf's not nearly as big a portion as it usually is. And then all the other stuff is all, well, much of muchness. Okay. So our best day was on the 16th of May, and on that day we generated an incredible 80 kilowatt hours. And here is the graph for that day. So as I was saying earlier, you can see the red line here is the north facing array, and the dark blue line is the south facing array. And you can see that from about sort of 6:30 in the morning all the way up until about 8 o'clock-ish, the north facing array is generating more than the south facing array, and that is because the sun is on the north side of the house while it comes up, and then they get to about equal output by about sort of 8:30, and then after that the north facing array starts to edge ahead. But you could see that by sort of midday, around sort of 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock-ish, the difference is quite noticeable. So the peak for the north facing array is what, about 3,000 watts, and the peak for the south facing array is about 4,500 watts. So there is a difference, and it's partly due to the fact that the north facing array has got slightly more panels. It's 5.4, but also just because the sun's on it is slightly on that side, even though it's almost overhead. But anyway, yeah, there's our best day. So yeah, you can see that our total output in the middle of the day was what, about 10.5 kilowatts. So that's pretty impressive. And we would have been exporting almost all of that, most of it. Okay, so now let's have a look at the worst day. So the worst day was on the 23rd of April. And on that day, we generated just under 20 kilowatt hours, which is still quite a lot, actually. Probably my best worst day ever. And you can see, you know, we did get a little peak in the middle of the day where the sun must have come out briefly between the clouds. It suddenly shot up to nearly 12 kilowatts, but that's an instantaneous reading. It wouldn't have been like that if it had been, you know, continuous. But even still, it's not a bad day. And the north-facing array and the south-facing array pretty much matching each other all the way through the morning until, you know, around sort of midday, when there is a difference. But the rest of the time they're pretty much the same. And so it was probably quite a sort of diffuse light that day, sort of equal in all directions, and that's why they're probably putting out broadly the same amount. Bodes well for the winter. Let's have a look now at our imported power broken down into half-hourly chunks for each of the days of the quarter. And you'll see that almost exclusively the whole time it's all just nighttime rate, 7 pence a kilowatt hour. You will see in there somewhere, I'm not sure where it is exactly, one of the days there is this load of red in the middle of the day, and that's the day when my software went a bit doolally. I didn't test it properly before. I just set it running, and yeah, paid the price really. It was a bit annoying because other than that, the whole rest of the time, you know, we basically not used any power during the day at all for the whole of the quarter. I think that's the only day where you see something happen. But apart from that, everything is all just, yeah, nighttime usage. So yeah, it's going really well in terms of having enough power to make it through the day. It's just not an issue in the summer, especially with the array this size now, and with all the battery storage we've got as well. Yeah, it's just not a problem. So where are we now? We're in May. Let's see, maybe it was in June. Okay, there it is. So it was on the 13th of June. That was the only day. Unfortunately, everything else has been just brilliant since then and up till then. So out of the 91 days of that quarter, 87 were no cost days, which means that, yeah, there were 4 in there where we pulled a little bit of power from the grid. So there must have been, apart from that really obvious one, there must have been a couple there where it pulled a little something. It was either just a timing issue where something had turned on slightly too early, or It's possible even that Octopus started charging the car early or something, and my system's just got a bit confused and has miscounted those as being cost days. But realistically, actually, there was only one day there where we pulled from the grid. All the others, so 90 days out of 91, pretty much were no cost days. So that is it for the second quarter of 2025. Just loving this extra solar, this north facing array. It's just going to pay for itself in no time at all, and I think I'll easily make enough to cover me through the whole of the winter. I'm still been trying to sort of get stuff with the heat pump, you know, but the problem with all the pipe work and stuff is just such a headache that I'm really starting to think, especially with some of the hot weather we've had recently, that maybe I should just go down the route of having air conditioning system fitted. It would just be so much easier for them to just come in, drill holes through the wall and put the units up by the ceiling, and, you know, job done. It wouldn't be as efficient as an air to water system, but it would still be pretty efficient. And obviously you've got the added benefit that on really hot summer days, you know, you'd be able to use it and get decent sleep at night instead of just lying on top of the bed sweating like a pig and not being able to sleep properly. So those days, you know, we don't get many of them in the UK very often. Maybe we'll get more of them, you know, as the climate keeps warming, who knows. But just for the ease of the thing, and for me to be able to get off the gas, which is, you know, I really want to do, maybe that's the way to go. I'm going to give that a bit more thought. I'm not too keen on having loads of units all down the side of my house though, and I think you tend to have like one unit for every 2 rooms or something, so I'd have to have at least sort of 3 or 4 units around the house or something, which is, I don't know, I still need to give it some thought. But anyway, if I was running with this amount of electric and batteries and stuff now, I think I'd be able to run most of it through the winter months even without pulling much from the grid during the daytime. So I think it could be the way to go, maybe. But anyway, yeah, other than that, we're thinking about potentially getting rid of our Nissan Leaf soon. It's really old now. Only does about 60 miles on a full charge now. It's done over 100,000 miles in total, and yeah, she's getting on a bit. But it's still fine for what we need it for, which is a second car, you know, just to pop to the shops or drive to local places and stuff. So we'll see. But if I do change it, I'll be sure to make a video about it. I think we've got an invite from Kia soon to go and see the new Kia EV3 and 4. I think it's the 3 and 4. So I might make a video about that. So potentially, if you're interested in the new Kias, then keep an eye out for that one. Get some footage and be able to see what they look like. But other than that, that's it. Thanks for watching. Please do like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you all for the next quarterly stats, and hopefully it'll be as good as this one. Cheers.